The oil drain plug is right on the passenger side front side of the oil pan. Your oil filter is just right above that. One thing I do want to note about this is when you're taking the oil filter off, be sure and come off slowly. When you do, try to control it so that the oil just bounces off the filter and then down into your pan. It'll keep you from having to do a lot of cleaning, removing of oil on a lot of parts over here. It'll just shoot right out and get all over your suspension. Air tube, it actually catches air and pushes it up into the alternator and helps keep it cool. So just kind of hold the thing over, be a little patient, let the oil bounce off of it and get it down to a slow stream before you pull the filter completely away. If you're not used to oil changes, the key things is get the car to normal running temperature. Be careful not to burn yourself when you're draining the oil, but of course drain your oil while the engine is warm. So on the new filter, be sure to rub a little oil around the seal so it'll help keep it from sticking to the engine when you go to change it the next time. So once you have everything drained out, just put everything back in, torque down everything nice and tight. Don't be overzealous with your drain bolt. If you don't use a torque wrench on it, most time a taunt is good. I mean, we don't have to just pry on it as hard as we have to. It doesn't take a whole lot to get these tight. Now, the oil filler cap is typically red. Should look just like this. This is a factory one. It's got an O-ring on it, as you see there. It is on the left side of the engine, or the driver's side, American versions. Be sure and use a good clean funnel, or if you don't have a funnel that you're able to dedicate just to oil, be sure and clean it with some sort of chemical like carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner, something like that before you run oil through it. You want to definitely keep your oils separate. You don't want to mix them. That can cause issues. One of the biggest ones many people are wise of in the automotive industry is when you mix the old traditional green coolant with the long life orange or red coolant. Those used to make pretty much a gel inside of your cooling system. So it was a really nasty thing when people accidentally mixed those things. So just a note of be sure and use clean funnels and try to use the same one for the same kind of fluids. So on a separate note, we did talk about the oil filter earlier, putting a nice oil bead around the filter. I forgot to also mention it's a good idea to go ahead and put some oil in that oil filter before you screw it back on. That allows oil to be instantaneous back into the system instead of having to fill the oil filter before it's able to flow any through the engine. So it just helps to prolong the life of the car. And you're not going to kill your car by forgetting to do that, but it is a good habit to get into. I've just added 5 quarts of 10W40, so it's good to go ahead and use a high zinc or what's typically called a high mileage oil on cars like this one. I do have over 70,000 miles, or a lot of them say 75,000 miles. This is where they kind of recommend you start moving over to the higher mileage oils. They just help protect your engine. Keep that in mind when you're buying oil for your car, but this one does use 10W40, whatever brand flavor you want to get. I've put the 5 quarts in. It holds more than 5 quarts. I'm going to start it up, run it for a minute, kind of get the oil flowing through the engine, and then we'll check it and then top it off from there. It is definitely easier to add oil than it is to remove it. Take your time filling it back up. It'll be a lot easier than having to lift it back up and down or crawl underneath the car, whichever you may have to do to change the oil. Now that I've run the engine for a few moments, we've got all the oil flowing through the engine pretty good. So we're going to go here. This is our oil fill levels dipstick. Check that, see where we're at 5 quarts, and then top off until we're at the proper range. Clean it before you check it. So pull it out, clean it, put it back in, pull it right back out, and then check it then. Don't check it just straight on the first pull. There could be stuff that pushed up the tube or whatever during filling, or especially during running, and it's going to give you an erroneous check. Well, hopefully y'all can see that there. So we've got oil way down close to the lower hole. That's the minimum level. Almost there. You kind of see where it gets dry down there, about a 1/4 inch below that hole. Probably a little more than a quart low at this point. We're going to add a little bit more and see where we're at. So here we are, we're right about a little more than the middle, so we're looking pretty good there. I'm going to add probably about another half quart. And there we are, max level. So wound up being a grand total of 7.5 quarts to fill the engine. That should be it. We've got the oil change done. We're just going to remove our funnel here and put the filler cap back on, and she's ready to go.